Now.
On 105.9 FM and streaming worldwide on the WMAL app.
O'Connor and Company.
It's 7:06 here on O'Connor and Company in this Friday morning that is flying by at record speed, but that's sort of every day right now as we charge up to Election Day. We're going to wrap up this week the way you expect with news, information, analysis, a few laughs, and a review of the new Chicken Big Mac. That's right. Everything you want to start your day. Also at 7:35, Bram Weinstein of ESPN 630. He's going to give us a preview of the Battle of the Beltway as the Commanders head up I-95 to Baltimore to take on the Ravens. And then at 8:35, Representative Mike Waltz of Florida give us an update on the hurricane recovery efforts down there. We might dabble in some presidential politics as well. I'm Larry O'Connor, and that right there is the effervescent Patrice Onwuka. Good morning, Patrice.
Good morning. Happy Friday.
Amen. Happy Friday to you as well. Joining us is Peter Doocy, senior White House correspondent for Fox News Channel. And Peter, you've had a heck of a week. I appreciate you carving out some time for us this morning.
Thank you, Larry and Patrice. Greetings from Pittsburgh International Airport.
Oh, Pittsburgh International. Well, wherever are you actually walking through the airport because your connection just dropped a little bit?
I am. I'm just through the TSA, so I am just walking towards the window so that it'll close up.
Good. Well, we'll try to get right to it then. I know you've already spoken about this a bit, but I want to revisit it a little bit, Peter, because I think it deserves some attention. You asked the White House Press Secretary, Karine Jean-Pierre, a very fact-based and relevant question. We know that the Secretary of Homeland Security is on record saying that he fears that they're going to run out of funds for hurricane relief. We also know that nearly $1 billion has been spent on transportation and sheltering of illegal immigrants and migrants in this country through that same Department of Homeland Security. We also had announcements of other funds in the administration's budget, including over $150 million given to Lebanon for relief from the Israel incursions and other efforts that they're trying to do for other nations. So, Peter, I think it's very relevant to ask, what does this tell us about the priorities of the administration? You were met with an accusation of misinformation. And have you ever gotten a clear explanation from this White House accusing you basically of lying in your question? Because there was nothing in that question that was not a fact.
No, and, I have talked to some White House officials afterwards, and I was getting questions like, well, why are you, the federal government spends money every day on lots of things. Why are you talking about disaster aid versus money for Lebanon? And it's like, I'm not talking about it. The vice president is posting about that while people in North Carolina are trying to figure out what exactly is going on. And at no point did I say that the money is not going to be there for these people in Western North Carolina, or that $750 is going to be the max. I was asking about why the system is set up in such a way that Congress has to come back to approve extra money for these disaster victims. They do not have to come back for the money for people in Lebanon. The check was already cut.
Yeah.
And that was the question. It was not misinformation. And if you notice, a lot of these White House staffers and the official accounts that will post on their social channels and elsewhere things from the briefing room to try to get their side out there. I didn't see anybody out there saying, oh, well, this is misinformation and this is why.
That's right. That's what they never do that. They say this is the specific misinformation and here's the actual fact. And by the way, I just want you to know, Peter, yesterday on this show, we had Brian Kavanaugh, a former official from Homeland Security and FEMA, and I raised the same question, and he said, ironically, Karine Jean-Pierre claiming that Congress needs to come back and, quote, do their job to free up money for the SBA loans and other things, that's misinformation. She was the one peddling misinformation. Congress does not have to come back for them to be able to shuffle money around right now, and then Congress eventually will be able to. They do it all the time, Peter.
They do, and it's a tedious process, but it's possible. Mm-hmm. And so that was the whole heart of the question, like, why? Just explain. I'm not here to have to accuse you guys of anything. But if you want to have a long discussion about the appropriations process, I'm happy to, just if that's the answer.
Well, I wish that that would be the case. Have you received any feedback, any congratulations, or any support, I should say, from other members of the White House press pool over, how you were treated and and the questions you were asked being called misinformation?
I'm not.
Wow.
Amazing. I don't know. It's this trend of uncomfortable questions that are accurate being categorized as misinformation. I mean, this is a trend that happens so often now with this White House.
And it reminds me of a couple months ago when there were these videos that showed President Biden in ways that they did not want him shown.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
And we were told, well, that's a cheap fake. It's deceptively edited to everything. Were there clips that were deceptively edited out there? Sure. Was that every clip? No. Yeah. And they are just, I hope as these briefings continue for the next couple of months that other questions are not just dismissed as misinformation.
This is Peter Doocy. You recognize his very recognizable voice, of course, as the senior White House correspondent from Fox News Channel. You said you're in Pittsburgh. Were you there for the Barack Obama event for the Harris campaign?
I was, yes.
I'd love for you to give us a first, because I was shocked. I saw video clips of it, but at no point was there a large shot of the room. Obama is used to, especially when it's campaign time, crunch time, final weeks like this, where he's in an arena, or he's in an outdoor setting where there's what was the size of the room and how many people were there?
There were thousands of people, and they had all been on their feet, standing, most of them, for at least 4 hours before he came out. And so they had the Pittsburgh University of Pittsburgh track and field field house, which I think the capacity is like 4,200. I'm not sure how they increased it based on all the people that were on the floor level standing.
But it was on a college campus. That's very interesting that it was a college campus.
But I would say a majority was activist Democrat types from the Pittsburgh area as opposed to college students. It was
Gotcha.
it seemed like a lot of people who were invited to come.
Interesting.
Gotcha. Well, I mean, for the next few weeks that we have left in the campaign, do you see President Biden going out on the trail at all, or is he just going to be stationary and using the hurricane's response as a reason just to keep him kind of on a leash and in the White House?
That's a good question. The campaign is celebrating the beginning of trips for Obama, and they just announced that Bill Clinton is going to be out there for them. They're really not talking much about Joe Biden. And I noticed last night, unless I missed some huge tribute to Joe Biden, I didn't hear his name out of Barack Obama's mouth until about 30-plus minutes in, and it was just a passing reference to comparing Hurricane Milton rhetoric from Biden and Harris to Trump and Vance. And so he is, as sad as it is for people at the White House, he is kind of an afterthought for them, for the Harris campaign.
Well, listen, Peter, I know I'm shocked that they've got you doing campaign coverage and flying to Pittsburgh and then back to D.C. for White House briefings. You're all over the place.
Yeah.
I guess you're not really going to be a husband and dad for the next 4 weeks until we get to the election.
The beautiful thing about where they go, these 7 battleground states, a lot of the places like North Carolina, Georgia, Pennsylvania, they're all like a 40-minute flight back.
Oh, all right.
And so
it's manageable. All right. Well, we worry because you got little ones, and then when you're home talking to us, we like to hear them, whining and complaining in the background. It humanizes you, Doocy.
Well, next time I promise I'll have a toddler looking for her breakfast.
We will hold that. We will hold you to that. Peter, thank you. Travel well.
Peter.
We'll see you, and keep up the great work. And every time they say that you're peddling in misinformation, you're right over the target. So just double down with another follow-up, man. We got your back.
Thanks, Larry and Patrice. I'll talk to you guys soon.